Welcome to a special Indianomics where we are discussing the MSME sector. Now, why MSMEs? Because several trends are lately indicating a fairly decent improvement in India's MSME sector. CIBIL and State Bank of India's data show that outstanding credit with MSMEs has grown by a compounded annual rate of 11% since pre-COVID, FY19. At the same time, their loan delinquency has fallen from 4.11% pre-COVID to 2.95% in FY22, the last full year for which we have data. Now, the Chief Economic Advisor, Anant Nageshwaran, pointed out in a recent Foreign Affairs article that while 80% of the GSTN registrations, in 2017 when GST came, were those who were earlier sales tax payers, the balance 19.8% are new registrations, indicating formalization of informal units. He also points out in that article that data from the Udayam portal is showing that 93,000 micro units have grown to become small units and 10,000 small units have become medium enterprises. And all this is from July 20th when the Udayam portal came up. So, looks like economic growth, schemes like the CGT MSE and the digitization process appears to have helped a general recovery of MSMEs. Has it? Well, if it has, then it makes a very big difference to the way we approach banking stocks, NBFC stocks, microfinance stocks, and indeed the macroeconomy. So it's a very big trend if that's true. I have with me four experts who can feel the pulse of the MSME sector. I have with me Rajesh Kumar, Managing Director and CEO of Transunion CIBIL, Dhrubashish Bhattacharya, Head Medium and Small Enterprises Lending at Bank of Baroda, Vivek Tripathi, Head of Commercial Banking at AU Small Finance Bank, and I think the most important man in the picture, Mr. S. Ramann, the Chairman and Managing Director of SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank, and the person who would know a thing or two about MSMEs. But I'm going to start with you, Rajesh. Rajesh, this is CIBIL data that we are discussing. You tell us, are you actually noticing a dramatic improvement or a reasonably strong improvement in the performance of MSMEs?
Good morning, Lata. Thanks for inviting me to the show. Oh, absolutely. I would use the word inflection point, as you said, dramatic improvement. So first of all, when we talk about all these huge growth numbers, I think 2-3 important points to note is that amongst the MSME credit given in terms of originations, we are already talking about almost a 70% going to what we call the micro segment. And typically in the industry parlance, when we say micro, we are talking about a total loan or total credit of less than 1 crore. Now, within that, another very interesting trend is that with sub 10 lakhs loan amount actually is again another 70% odd. And then within that, if you see, there's another 70% in the sub 10 lakh segment, which is also new to credit. And the reason I'm saying this is a wonderful inflection point is that all of this is opening up thanks to the new taxpayers that you just mentioned. The overall turnover cutoff for filing income tax has been reduced to 10 crores. So what's really happening is that the formalization that you spoke about, there are crores and crores of invoice data that's coming into the system. And the typical problem when we used to perceive in the past that MSMEs are risky or small MSMEs are risky, now I think we are in a fantastic position today, thanks to all the digitization and the public digital ecosystems or infrastructure that we're talking about, where we're saying that the risk averseness because of the lack of information for lenders to take good decisions, good lending decisions, that's being mitigated now with all this information. And lastly, this growth that we see is not in particular states, the usual large industrial states. We are seeing a lot of young borrowers coming in, a lot of new to credit borrowers, a lot of women borrowers, and what we typically say in the industry, SURU, right? Semi-urban and rural geographies. Terrific growth in the contribution from these segments. So coming back, I think there's a wonderful inflection point that we are beginning to witness here.
Okay, I'll scratch that point further with you, Rajesh, but let me get Mr. Ramann in. As SIDBI, perhaps, Mr. Ramann, you're best placed to give us an idea whether you would agree with Rajesh. Is it an inflection point or is it only a slow incremental journey?
Hi, morning. So I think a lot of programs have now come together and they're probably leveraging upon each other. So we are seeing a rebound. So there's certainly going to be a rebound after COVID. But what we have ourselves seen, of course, on a slightly small base in our direct lending, our direct lending shows that we have grown 20% year on year, which I think is excellent credit uptake from the MSMEs. We look at MSMEs now from a slightly different lens. We really look at them as those within the GSTN system and those outside it. And I think the data that you had just shared clearly shows that there is an increase in the number of GSTN invoices. And therefore, around the GSTN data, which I think all banks are now using, as Rajesh had mentioned, with the public data infrastructure which has been built, we are now looking at giving an incentive to entities that are within the GSTN sector, because all of us are working on straight-through processing methods where delivery of credit becomes cheaper. So I think at the end of the day, the incentive to be part of the GST system and become formalized must be something perceived amongst the MSMEs, such that more and more of them come within the GSTN sector. And the second is really the advent of account aggregator, which is now going to help pull the data from both GSTN as well as bank statements from banks, such that we are now getting into a very seamless digital journey for credit appraisal. And we really think, as the banking sector is concerned, we should be able to provide credit within 24 hours of an application coming in. Now, that's really going to make a change to the MSMEs, because yesterday they were not treated in a similar manner. And this has happened thanks to the digital data.
Okay.
So I think I'll stop there for right now.
You seem to give me the impression that we are going to get to a point where the account aggregators will start, speeding up the process. That we know, but I spoke to a couple of account aggregators. The golden moment is still probably a few years away, a couple of years away at least, when they can integrate so much. That's the impression I got. But, Bank of Baroda was speaking about, 59 minutes to a loan or something, some time back. So, Mr. Bhattacharya, on that point, can you actually tell us whether the MSME can be called the new retail? Actually, this is a phrase which Rajesh gave me. He said some bankers are saying that MSME is the new retail. Do you feel that there is that kind of a spring in the step?
Oh, yes, Lata, actually, and good morning to everybody. And I completely endorse the views of the two speakers earlier. Well, there's a mantra, a punchline which has been heard quite often, that MSME is the new retail, because last two and a half decades, particularly where we saw a revolution in the retail finance. And I think MSME was the elephant in the room. And now we have discovered that this elephant is actually gives the maximum yield, the maximum return on assets, or a return on capital to any organization. So therefore, at Bank of Baroda also, we understand, and we drew big plans for the MSME business. Just to give a couple of figures, while our growth in the AUM has been close to 14%, nevertheless, but that has come in the backdrop of a reduction in the NPAs of 400 bips in the last 4 quarters. So that's most interesting. We want to break the myth that MSME is actually a delinquent segment or a portfolio. Okay. So
this 14% is only for MSMEs, you're saying, or is that the overall?
Only MSMEs. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Only MSMEs.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
13.7% to be precise, and a 400 bips drop in the NPAs in the last 4 quarters, and a drop in the SMA book. See, NPAs is one indicator, but you need to also see what is building up for the future. Fair. So your SMA book, which is the special mention accounts, SMA 1, 2, they have also dropped by 35%. So the delinquency position is actually improving a lot, and I'm sure this is true with all the bankers. So if your delinquency position is very favorable and the external factors are positive, the initiatives taken by the government, especially with respect to the micro and small enterprises, I'm sure this is going to be the next retail. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, that's good to hear. I was wanting to hear whether it is already the next retail. Now, that's the question really to Vivek. Vivek, I guess of all of us here, you are the one with the feet on the street. I mean, it's a small finance bank, so this is the bread and butter for you. Are you getting a feeling that MSME has already arrived and it is not a brighter tomorrow, but they're already doing well?
Yeah, so our as you rightly said, that we are in the tier 3, tier 4 locations, and we operate in maximum those geographies across the states where we are present. Our feeling is two-way. There have been a K-shaped recovery. So there are MSMEs which are into B2B segments, which are part of formal ecosystem, have really come up and done well. There is still a segment which caters to the bottom of pyramid segment, largely B2C segment and into an informal segment. They are still recovering. So the recovery has not been uniform. So if you look at any rural FMCG sales or any data, would indicate the same, right? There is a demand for premium goods there, but there is a muted demand for a mass market segment. So the situation has improved dramatically in last 2 years, but obviously there is a one segment of MSMEs which is still under the recovery.
Okay, just to elaborate, what you are saying is that those who are connected to, say, government contracts or to big businesses are the ones that are asking for credit. But Vivek, I just want to know whether compared to 4 years ago, that is pre-COVID, are you seeing a substantial change in the demand for credit from this category?
Yes, overall demand has, Lata, gone up significantly. From our point of view, it's almost, the inquiries has gone up 1.4x. Our share in the MSME incremental lending has gone up from 0.8% to 1.2%. So that demand is growing. And we are seeing a stronger demand from the segment which is getting formalized. So that's one area. The second area there where we see a significant better performance by even the informal segment in terms of when we look at our collection efficiency data, when we look at typical Q3 cycle across the year, even pre-COVID level, this gives us a lot of confidence that the borrowers are forthcoming. Even there is a resolution in the NPA account, there is a higher and better collection efficiency across the buckets. So there is a demand and there is a better cash flow. Obviously, the GST and banking data gives us more confidence to underwrite, and that has enabled the banking system to do more credit, in fact.
So clearly, GSTN has helped formalization. Formalization has helped the MSME sector. We need to go into a break on that optimistic note. We're going to come back and look at the next steps that you all see in the growth of the MSME sector. Back in a jiffy. Experts tell us that there has been a seminal improvement in the MSME sector, and that's what we have been discussing with 4 experts: Rajesh Kumar of Transunion CIBIL, Dhrubashish Bhattacharya of Bank of Baroda, Vivek Tripathi of AU Small Finance Bank, and Mr. S. Ramann, the Chair and Managing Director of SIDBI. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience, for waiting by. Rajesh, the account aggregator is on the anvil. I mean, it's a budding idea. Have you already, at CIBIL, are you able to use more data? And are you therefore able to get more MSMEs in your ken?
Oh, absolutely, Lata. As I mentioned earlier, when it comes to this segment, the real problem that we are trying to solve is the easy availability of relevant data. So thanks to account aggregator framework now, we can use all the GSTN data, which is a trade level invoice data, and then we're getting bank statements. So we can triangulate the sales or purchase invoice versus versus a credit or debit in a bank statement. And then all of this coming together with the financials being filed at MCA. So we've recently launched a product, in fact, mentored by SIDBI. And all of this should lead to touch upon one earlier point, that formalization. Look, today we are talking about 7 to 8 crore MSMEs. That would be the approximate number, the recent number. And then on the other hand, the ever credited MSMEs who got some credit historically is at about 2.5 crores, which means we are talking about another 5 crore MSMEs. A lot of them will come into the micro and very small segment. Traditionally, if you see, the credit that they operate on is actually trade credit. So most of the small traders, for example, or the shopkeepers, they all get 30 days credit from their distributors, right? And it's really not the most efficient way of assessing credit by lenders today. But with all this digital infrastructure that we're talking about, all of that can come into the formal lending system because we have all the relevant data.
Okay. No, has some of it already come? You're saying that you're already using GSTN data, is it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We call this the FIT rank, coincidentally, which is financial, income, and trade information.
Okay. And that has led to a larger number of smaller units being analyzable by you.
Oh yeah, that's begun now. I think there's lots more work to be done in terms of taking it deeper into the market, and a lot of that is tech dependent. We're already investing a lot into that, but the initial response from the bankers has been really encouraging because in the end, it's making lending so much easier.
Fair enough. Mr. Ramann, on the same point, are you able to do more in terms of refinancing? What I'm trying to check out is not what will be possible, but as of now, because of the CGTMSE, because of other data that is being available, is SIDBI able to reach out to more people?
Yes, certainly. I think one, the GSTN data has been used by everybody. And just to make a point, the account aggregator is actually up and running.
Okay.
It does require a little bit of further integration with GSTN, but on the bank statement side, it is completely up and running and people are using it. With regard to formalization, I'd really like to share with all of you a great initiative that the MSME Ministry has taken along with SIDBI. We're helping them by getting the entire banking and MFI ecosystem to bring in the informal entities into the formal sector. And this is really by giving them the Udyam registration certificate.
Okay.
This will bring them on board onto the digital platforms, after which a variety of other products could reach them. Of course, the banking sector will be extremely happy because the priority sector loan status will therefore not get disturbed, which today requires an Udyam registration certificate. So we have already worked out an ambitious plan wherein within the next 12 months, with the help of the banking sector and the MFIs, we should be able to bring on at least 2 crore entities which are informal today and bring them on to the Udyam registration portal. Following which there are innovative products which are being talked about. The Standing Committee of Finance talked about a Vyapar credit card. That has been worked with NPCI such that we have a genuine credit card for retail, for very small entities, for the tiny and the nano, so that we're giving them a genuine credit card which will work on the UPI. So at the end of it, as a banking system, we need to look at how to wean the tiny and the nano sector away from the money lenders such that the interest rates that they are, bearing become more reasonable. Yeah. So I think this is a very, very large initiative. And with regard to the refinance sector, that is something which is growing in leaps and bounds. Therefore, we are also, seeing the kind of credit uptake which the NBFCs and the banks are getting. And separately, SIDBI is working on a platform which is really a blockchain platform for helping us monitor the loans given by us to smaller NBFCs and MFIs such that our risk is lowered. Okay. So that's another very important piece going forward, which all the large lenders like SBI, NABARD, etc. are expected to join that platform.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you're referring to Udyam Assist. That yes. Program is helping, ensuring that the government helps micro enterprises to come on register in the Udyam portal. Take your point on that. Okay, Mr. Bhattacharya, I wanted to know whether, the improvement is stuttering because of lack of growth. I mean, while formalization is bringing more people, is there any problem in terms of this K-shaped recovery, which is not leading the number of lenders into a number of borrowers into a flood? Do you see that problem at all, the growth slowdown or the K-shaped recovery?
So, yeah, so Lata, I think, see what has happened, you have to take these 3 segments separately. One is a micro, small, and medium. So today, if you see the formalization of credit largely applies to the micro segment. Today, medium segment is largely settled. They have left the worst behind and they are actually growing. Okay. Today, I think the impetus is required at the micro level. The micro borrowers is where they still have a hitch. They are still falling prey to the money lenders, local money lenders, and the intermediaries in the market. That's where we have to root them out. I think there's one big step which at Bank of Baroda, and I'm sure all the banks would have done, is that the business loan, typically that's a big chunk of credit which has been offered. And as Rajesh said, that the NTC, which is the new to credit, has increased manifold in the recent years. This is particularly in the business loan, unsecured business loan segment. which we are finding, that's a segment which typically the banks, particularly the public sector banks, were wary of. So I think those were the borrowers who were deprived of the a typical PSB loan. We are gearing up heavily into that. One, it has to be a complete digital, end-to-end digital. And two, we are also taking the route of co-lending, which is another big initiative taken by RBI and the Government of India to kind of rope in these customers, wherein we will have a maximum outreach. I think the incremental, your graph was also showing that your migration from a micro to small and small to medium is happening. This will happen at a rapid pace, more and more inclusiveness if we show from the banks to involve these micro lenders. Okay. I think that's one area which government is very, very seriously working on, and we are backing that.
Yeah, I guess it's still a few steps away. Once Udayam Assist works, I guess you will have much more data. Vivek, you used the word K-shaped recovery, and that's what triggered this question in my mind. Would it be fair to say that an inflection point has been reached because the informal sector has been formalized somewhat because of GSTN, but the bigger leap will come only when growth really picks up? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, Lata, to an extent, it's a fair statement because the B2B segment, as I mentioned, that a lot of businesses which were part of the formal ecosystem, and that is why you would see there is a lot of traction on the demand from that segment. However, there are if you break it down into a two clear-cut segment, the linkages where it's related to infra push, where there is a linkages to the consumer staple, especially food, agro industry, that has been doing good. But the mass level market, segment where they cater to the bottom of pyramid consumer, end consumers, whether it's a manufacturing, whether it's a B2C businesses, those are yet to I would say grow significantly enough to generate demand. But things are improving rapidly at a grassroots level, which is indicated by many other factors. And obviously, the monsoon would play a bigger role, and there is early summer, and there could be impact on the wheat production. Yes. So all those other factors will also play a role in the demand, right? Okay. So going forward, that's our assessment on the ground.
Fair point, I think, and that's a realistic assessment. Let us be aware that rural demand could get pinched if we have an El Nino effect and if we have a prolonged summer and poor rains. Yes, that point is taken. Unfortunately, out of time, but I think I get enough encouragement from all of you and from the data that you have presented that the formalization process which GST engendered has led to a larger number of MSMEs getting credit. But the future inflection point, the trickle becoming a flood and a bigger flood, will depend, of course, on economic growth itself. And for that, of course, there are too many variables. Thank you very much for this cautious optimism on the growth of the MSME sector. That's it on this edition of Indianomics. Thanks for watching.